It feels like a Darren Aronofsky film is either a half-star or a 5-star. And Caught Stealing is his newest film starring Zoe Kravitz and Austin Butler. And I gotta say, my hype for this movie has exponentially increased over the last few weeks with great reviews, and seeing the trailer in front of every single movie I saw at the theater, it felt like it was doing its job and really transporting me to this gangster ride through New York nightlife. And this ride through New York just at a certain point becomes flow state filmmaking in this movie, and I absolutely loved it. Austin Butler plays a washed-up baseball player struggling to survive after being thrown into the criminal underworld of 1990s New York City. That synopsis alone sounds absolutely awesome to me, and I think it's executed to pretty much as perfect as you can get, because it feels like Darren Aronofsky as a filmmaker is finally having fun again. And in that, I mean really telling a story with characters that I care about, an emotional core that actually works. And I think all of this is just led by Austin Butler so perfectly. He's one of my favorite working actors right now. Almost every single project that he's in pretty much interests me from the get-go. And one of the more recent ones is The Bike Riders, which I honestly didn't have many expectations for going in until I saw the trailer, until I saw what Austin Butler was doing. And then his chemistry with Jodie Comer, Tom Hardy, all of the elements of that film and that world brought together, carried by Austin Butler, worked perfectly to me. And the same thing happens in the evolution of this movie, at least with my personal experience, where I really enjoyed his character. But as you start to learn more about him, his relationship to Zoe Kravitz's character, the rest of this cast, which we'll get to in just a second here, the world just snowballs on top of each other, and I actually really just care about him. Austin Butler is really able to transform in his roles, but some roles don't really require that. He is supposed to be playing a regular guy thrown into this really crazy nightlife New York situation, and he does that perfectly, just as perfectly as he does Fade Routha in Dune Part 2. It's this 180 that Butler is able to do with all of his roles, and kind of going from Dune Part 2 to The Bike Riders to now Caught Stealing, he is just making and coming up with these performances in these worlds that I just can't get enough of. Going into this movie, I had heard comparisons of After Hours, and that is just super exciting, especially for a movie in 2025. I wouldn't say this movie reaches those heights, but in the second half, it starts to lean more towards that, which is just awesome. There just feels like a big risk. It feels like this entire gangster, kingpin, underworld aspect of New York City is just completely unhinged to the point where literally anything can happen. No one character feels safe because they take risks and they take swings with specific character things that I just felt really excited watching everything unfold. On that comparison, though, I think is my biggest problem with the movie, and that is the pacing of it. I think obviously you have to get your characters into a routine. You have to build a lot of depth into them, especially with the relationships. And I think it takes a little too long doing that and slightly drags in that aspect. But at the same time, I don't think a lot of the resolution aspects would have been as hard-hitting if not for these slower moments. So it's kind of a push and pull. I think at the end of the day, it was worth it to take all of that time. But at the same time, the second half of this movie is just moving at such a different level than the first half that I wish we got more of that. The cast of this film is really what makes it so well-rounded and makes this like ensemble of kingpin and underworld drug things just so interesting to watch. You have actors like Bad Bunny, Vincent D'Onofrio, Matt Smith, and Regina King. Regina King is doing something really interesting as this cop character here, and the flips and the political side of it all, it is very cool. But to me, the most interesting part is Zoe Kravitz, her relationship with Austin Butler's character, and the way that she's really trying to get inside of him and understand this guy, and their dynamic, their chemistry, it's so palpable. I really just love these two in the lead, and it makes the first half of this movie work so well as just this explorative idea of what New York can be. I really loved how in the moments between Zoe Kravitz and Austin Butler, the camera didn't really cut or move much. It really felt like we were just getting in on this relationship and understanding these characters. And just overall on a technical side, I think the score and the visual language, more so just the composition of the personal moments, is really what makes it work and not feel stagnant. And all of this is again wrapped up in the perfect Austin Butler performance. He's kind of giving it his all here There are really great emotional moments, especially with his backstory as a baseball player. And so much of this movie is laid out in the relationship between him and his mom, and how he's just like a small city boy that wants to talk to his mom all the time, and they both love baseball, and he went through this traumatic thing that really drives through the entire film. It all just feels very nicely tied with a bow to, even at times when I didn't think this movie was going to end in a positive way for certain characters, I was really happy with the outcome, and it did feel deserved and earned for our lead character. At the end of the day, I really loved Caught Stealing. I wouldn't say it was one of my most anticipated movies right out of the gate for 2025, but as time went on, I just got really interested in it, and I'm happy that it delivered. I wouldn't say this is a Darren Aronofsky miss by any means, but I also wouldn't say it's the best in his filmography. I really had a fun time with Caught Stealing. I definitely recommend you checking this out in theaters with a crowd. It's an awesome weekend night movie. Overall, I'm going to give Darren Aronofsky's Caught Stealing an 8 out of 10. If you've seen or want to check out Caught Stealing, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below. Subscribe for more movie reviews. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.